Hello.
Good evening.
Welcome to Testimony Tuesdays Talk and Tea. We are so
Yes,
excited that you all decided to join us on tonight.
absolutely.
We are super excited to have you join us. If you would go ahead, like, tag, and share. Let someone know that you are on, that we are on.
Yes,
Um,
you
and
won't be
we are
disappointed.
excited. We have a powerhouse that is joining us on today, who is no stranger to Testimony Tuesday because she was here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
And so we are just so excited to have her back on with us on today.
yeah.
She has got something to say and a story to tell.
Actually,
And
kind of
so,
like backed by popular demand.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And so this is just the beginning of seeing her face quite often.
yep. So,
Um,
so like, tag, and share. Reach out and send this information to somebody so that they can be blessed by this woman of God as well.
Absolutely, because she has such a powerful testimony.
Yes,
And so, Testimony Tuesday, as I always say, is a platform to share what the Lord is doing. He is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore.
hmm,
And we want people to know of the goodness of God. We want you to know that miracles that He did over 2,000 years ago, guess what? He's still doing miracles on today.
yes,
As a
yes,
matter of fact, you're looking at a set of miracles
yes.
right now, even as we
Absolutely.
speak, because he's been just that good. He's a
Yep.
keeper,
Exhibit
and
A.
that is our
Yes,
testimony.
yes,
And so we
yes.
just want you to know. And so there are so many people who have so many testimonies. And so we are going to share one on tonight. And so our scripture reference for Testimony Tuesday is
Yep. It's based off of Revelation 12, verses 10 and 11. And it reads, "And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death."
absolutely. So there
Yes.
is power in the testimony. And so I don't want to prolong the time. I'm going to jump right in with our introduction. So tonight, back as June said, by popular demand, we have Dr. Nikita Key Garris Watson, affectionately known as the Stiletto Preacher.
Yeah.
She is a survivor, a strategist, and a spirit-led trailblazer. As an apostle, best-selling author, educator, and CEO, Dr. Key Enterprises, she uses her own testimony of childhood and adult abuse to bring deliverance to both the neighborhood and the nations.
Wow.
Powerful.
Yes.
Armed with a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, and a doctorate of ministry, and
Wow.
a fire for transformational impact, Dr. Key operates at the intersection of faith, education, healing, and justice. Through her teaching, speaking, and writing, including her best selling books, Damaged but Destined, So What, Now What, and Damaged but Destined, the Delivery Diary, she proves that pain can become purpose and brokenness can lead to breakthrough.
Wow.
These works are not just inspirational, but they are instructional, equipping readers with spiritual tools to confront their past, embrace their healing, and walk boldly in their divine assignment. Her books have become healing guides, journaling companions, and altar calls in written form, sparking tears, deliverance, and transformation in living rooms, churches, and even hospital rooms.
Mm.
Her voice carries both fire and compassion, challenging readers to face what hurts them while lifting them toward what God has for them. Dr. Key doesn't just write from theory, she writes from the trenches of testimony, where trauma was met by truth and shame was silenced by scripture.
Wow.
Good God today. Whether she's speaking from the pulpit, leading a workshop, or signing books at an outreach event, her message remains the same. You may have been damaged, but you are still destined.
Mm.
And your destiny deserves your full healing. Their lives of transformation, and this is her and her husband, um, They preach that love, when rooted in God, can endure storms, inspire change, and lead to purpose driven impact. I am excited to have with us on today Dr. Nikita Garris Watson. Thank you for joining
Yes.
us.
Hello, Dr. Key.
Thank y'all for having me back. I am so honored.
We are so
So
honored.
Yes, we are.
We are so honored to have you. As I read your bio, it's so powerful
It
within
is.
itself. And when you were here the last time, your words were so amazing. I mean, it was again transformational.
Yes.
It made us think. It They were just inspirational, you and your husband as well. And so we are just excited to have you to join us on tonight. And the reason that we brought you back again was because you and your husband are a power packed team within yourselves.
Yes.
However, you have a whole nother testimony within yourself. And so I wanted the people to be able to hear your story, because sometimes people can look at where you are now and think that that's where you have to start off. They think that this has been you for all of your life, but they have no idea what it took to get you to where you are. And some of the people who started maybe from where you have started from need to see and hear where I am is not where I'll end up.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It
So-
is.
And so
It's
we
first of
are
all,
just,
honor. Thank you.
we are honored to have you. I can't say it enough. We are honored to have you. And so we want to jump right in and take us back to childhood. I know we're going real far back, but take us back to your
Did
childhood.
you just call me old? No.
Look, you know what? I
I'm
thought about
teasing.
that after I
I'm
said
teasing.
it.
I'm teasing. Don't you know I'm 25? No, I'm teasing. I am teasing.
I didn't mean
Oh.
that. So I'm just
No.
thinking your younger years, that's all.
I'm teasing. I am only teasing. Oh.
And so take us back to growing up as a child.
Oh God. If I had to put it in one word, and I think about my youth, I would have to use trauma. It was a trauma-filled childhood. I grew up too fast. I grew up entirely too fast for anyone. So we're talking about a person who dealt with abuse and molestation and neglect and abandonment, being even at my age now, which is clearly not 25, but even now, not knowing who my biological father is, being born to a teenage mother who had experienced her own loss, watching her deal with abuse, because what a lot of people have to understand is a parent's trauma is also their child's trauma. It becomes their child's trauma, especially when you're the oldest. We're talking about having to survive being in the hood. I grew up in the projects. I grew up PO. I tell people PO because OR does not articulate. We were PO. We were poor. Trying low self-esteem, trying to figure out who I was in this fight. And then even in being poor, there came these other challenges that are inherent with poverty and the poverty mindset, and having to that intersection, or the interjection between the two, or the intersection between being poor but still wanting more, but not feeling like you even had a right to ask for more, not feeling like I had the privilege to want more. I think the most profound part of my growing up is my mother saying she wasn't raising any average children. So when it came to our academics, we couldn't bring home anything below a B, because she didn't take C's, because she said her children weren't average. And so here you are in the middle of trauma and being told you're not average, but then you're looking around you and everything around you says death, or doesn't speak possibility. We're talking about growing up in a household that's violent and dealing with violence, or even growing up in the projects and having 13 people in a 3-bedroom, and some of us clearly weren't on the lease, but it was a survival. So I grew up in survival. And that's where the damage came from. And the damage carried on throughout my life. And it took a lot of spiritual detoxing to go from damage to destiny, or to even know that I had a destiny, that I could still be something despite where I came from, to really know that your latter really could be greater than your former, to know that I could go from being homeless to higher education, because I literally worked 2 full-time jobs while I was in school, because education was my only way of escape. It was the only way I was going to get out. So that's just a little bit of the story.
Wow. That is something. And so when you talk about growing up poor, and you talk about the standard that was set, as far as education wise, you've done so amazing even in that arena. Like you've done, we read in your bio, a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degree. It's been amazing. But you talk about trauma. Can we talk a little bit about the trauma piece?
Absolutely.
Because and I say that because there are so many people that are dealing with trauma in silence. So whether it happened when they were younger, they don't talk about it today because it's a part of them that has been hidden.
Yeah, sometimes they channel their energy in different directions.
Absolutely. And so when you see a lot of, maybe negative actions, and sometimes you think, and I can remember, just people that I knew that struggled in different areas when we were in school. Once we became an adult, I understood as they began to talk about their trauma, why
they showed up a certain
middle
way.
high school, was like it was. And so will you talk to us a little bit about trauma?
If I had to tell you, telling my truth actually produced more trauma, but there was such a need to get out of what I was in. When I told the truth of what had happened to me, and I told the truth of what had happened, because I'd been molested from the time I was 6 to the time I was 13 years old. And when I had to tell the truth of who those people were, I was not believed. I was actually rejected, and I was abused for telling my truth. And so, but I knew that I could not stay trapped. So there was a part of me that was inherent of coming out. When people talk about, the hidden thing, the shame that goes with it, but you get to a place where it's like, I can't stay like this. I can't live like this. My first effort at escape was a suicide attempt. And it just didn't work. I've actually tried suicide 4 times in my life. And I remember being angry and saying to God, I can't even die right. But not realizing that he was not allowing me to die. He wasn't giving me permission to die, because I felt like the world would be better without me, or that the pain was going to be, I felt like pain was going to be my testimony, or pain was going to be my only future. And I wasn't seeing anything around me. There was no blueprint, no template of possibility. And so there literally had to be God's hand on my life. But when you talk about trauma, it wasn't just my own trauma. There was firsthand trauma that I was dealing with, but then there was also secondhand trauma. So it was combined trauma. It was compounded trauma, perpetual trauma, because it was every day was something else. So you're dealing with the trauma of being abused. You're dealing with the trauma of being molested and not being able to talk about it. You're dealing with the trauma of being impoverished. And you go to school because you don't have what everybody else has, and people are talking about you. Even when your teachers talk about you and they don't realize that what you have on is the best you have. I remember getting in trouble because a teacher talked about me, and I got angry and I defended my mother, because it was this person who was talking about how we looked and how poorly we looked. And that particular day, I decided I was going to defend my life. I was going to defend my mother. And I ended up in the principal's office. But the teacher, in that particular case, the principal told the teacher they were out of order, that what they had said was wrong. I remember my 5th grade teacher talking about how ugly my shoes were. She said, she's a cute little girl, but her shoes are ugly. That thing stayed with me, and it showed up as an excessive purchase of shoes for years. It showed up as excessiveness or overdoing it for my children. When my son was not even 1 year old, trying to make up for what I didn't have until God fixed some things within me. The trauma of hiding hiding what had happened. So then you spend a season trying to hide what you look like or trying to hide your body because you don't want to draw attention, because unfortunately, and it happens too many times in our community, where we say a young girl is fast, not realizing she wasn't fast by choice, but she was introduced to something prematurely, and it opened up a perversion spirit that should have never been a part of her testimony.
Wow.
So being told that, what happens in this house stays in this house, but what's happening in this house is killing me. And if I don't say something, I'm going to die in this house. Or I remember my mother being beaten and jumping in on fights because I'm not going to let my mother fight alone, And so it forces you to grow up. So when people think about childhood, I grew up early. I was an adult before I was ever an adult. And so I take life very seriously, or I defend very seriously, not knowing that eventually that would become the very essence of who I am. I defend the voices. I defend the abuse. I defend the neglected, because that's how passionate, because I want to be to people what I never had. And so that's what it became, is I didn't have it, but I'll make sure that those behind me have it. So trauma had me trapped for a season. It had me trapped mentally. It had me trapped spiritually and emotionally. Not knowing my father, and then the father figures being abusive, it kept me from even accepting God as Abba. I was okay with God as Savior, but I couldn't deal with the concept of God as a father, because everything I knew about a father was negative. And until that could be resolved, I had to. There was a lot of things. It carries over into every part of your life. Of course, we know, or a lot of people won't talk about the fact that there are two things that happen. We either, as a people, talk about what you can't have in terms of psychological help. And then when you get into the church, then the church talks about what you can't have psychologically. So now you're dealing with cultural and church trauma, which says you have trauma, but you can't talk about it. You have trauma, but you can't get help. You have trauma, but you're only supposed to pray about it. And I knew that there had to be more. And so my story of transformation also became a story of rebellion, but not from I had to rebel against everything I had been told or had been seen or had been taught, because now nothing about my life matches that. So that in order to become untrapped, I had to tell the truth, but it hurt to tell the truth. But I couldn't. I had two choices. I either could stay the same or be different. And I had to pay the price of being different.
Wow. You said something that you said so much that was so good, but one of the things you talked about was, we talk about how little girls may be fast. We say that we see a little girl, she may have this or that, but we talk about them being fast. But the truth of the matter is, and this was so powerful to me, is that she was opened up to that spirit of perversion at a young age.
At a young age.
And
children don't come into the world sexualized.
Right.
Children are innocent, but when they're introduced to situations, circumstances, and secrets. So now I'm not only are you sexualizing me, but you're making me keep a secret. So now you're introducing to my life lying spirits. So then, because you're telling me I have to lie, you're telling me I have to hide, you're telling me I can't say anything. And wow. So people think that when you have certain behaviors, because now I'm thinking this is a norm, so I'm supposed to react to this to a man. I'm supposed to have this behavior around certain people, and they think it's okay. And so now they say, "Oh, this girl is fast." Why is she fast? If she's 6 years old, 7 years old, and she's displaying certain behaviors, the question shouldn't be, the problem should not be the child. It should be, why does this child have this? Why does this child have this behavior? Why does this child know to even do this? Because if this is abnormal, and this is not something that's normal for a baby or a little girl, then you should have questions about why this baby is exposed or aware or has knowledge of this behavior. But we blame the child. We blame that child for behaviors that the child should never have been introduced to. We don't give place to asking questions. And I'll never forget, Pastor Ayana, I went to a service, probably, it's been about 9-10 years ago now. I went to a service, and this woman walks up to me, and she says to me, "Do you remember who I am?" And I was like, "No, should I?" And she goes, "Well, I dated your uncle." So when she tells me who she is, I remember like briefly, I remember like certain parts about her. And she goes to me And she says to me, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you preaching." She said, "But you were kind of fast as a little girl." She said, "Because I remember you kissing my nephew." And I looked at her and I had to decide in that moment, how do I want to handle this moment? But I had finally been free enough to tell my truth. And I said to her, I said, it didn't dawn on you that I was 4 years old and knew to kiss a boy. It didn't dawn on you. I said, "May I help you?" I was like 5 or 6 years old. I said, "It didn't dawn on you that the behavior was abnormal, so you blamed me." I said, "May I help you?" I said, "I'm gonna clear some up for you." I said, "I was being abused, neglected, and molested at the time. And clearly you didn't have enough insight to see." I said, "That's what you're gonna bring to me to the altar is my past." That's the behavior that people have to stop doing.
Wow.
And literally, that's how she approached me. I'm now a full-grown adult, and you're telling me about promiscuous behavior in my past. And I had to tell her, what you were seeing was the fruit you were seeing was my pain. You were not seeing who I was as a person, and you didn't have enough discernment to even know the difference. And then I left her there altar thinking like, I needed her to understand, because now you're even bringing it to me as an adult, as if you want to take me back to that place that I'm not even that person anymore. You haven't seen me since I was 6. I was in my 40s. And this is what you want to bring to me? We have a problem, because you're still the same person and I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so powerful to me.
But I think I had this conversation earlier with my best friend, Dr. Samosa, who's on here, is one of the things that trauma taught me after I found out that my truth was still going to hurt, is that I could not expect permission, I did not expect permission to heal from the people that hurt me. That's where a lot of people get stuck, is that they want the people that hurt them to be the voice of healing. And that's not necessarily going to be the case. I had to heal without their permission or their approval. And even to this day, there are still some who don't approve of the fact that I'm willing to tell my truth. And I'm not telling it from a victim's perspective, because I'm not a victim. If I were a victim, I would still be stuck. I am victorious. I am triumphant, but I am no longer traumatized, and I'm no longer a victim of what happened. And so there are those who don't approve of my healing. And there are those, if it were up to them, I would still be stuck, just like that woman who came up to me. They would still have me stuck in that place. And I refused to do that. And that was the privilege and the transformation of getting to know God. That was the transformation of recognizing that while I had my truth and I had my trauma, I also knew that I learned that I could be triumphant. And I had to learn. So my life became a living testimony to the transformative power of God, beyond a shout, beyond a dance, but sitting down and dealing with it, and sitting in my emotions, sitting in my hurt, sitting in my damage, sitting in my disappointments and my doubts, and having conversations. Submitting myself to treatment processes. My first level of treatment came after having literally a nervous breakdown at 16 years old and being placed into a mental hospital. Being in that place and space. And it was funny because I'm in a mental hospital and they're telling me, because I had a chance to read my notes and to say, they were telling me I was helping everybody else, but I wouldn't let anybody help me. And it took time and processes. But all of that became a necessary part. It was nasty, but it was necessary. That's something that I talk about often with my doctor son, Travis, that some things are nasty, but they're necessary, because it became a part of the transformation and the testimony, the transparency of my testimony and who I am as a preacher, as a believer, as a leader, as a mother. It transformed who I was as a mother, because I knew what I would and what I would not allow for my children. That even as God was transforming me, I was still raising them. And I knew I could not allow them to be second generation victims. I needed them to be first generation victorious.
I keep saying wow, because every word you say is such a wow moment. And to hear you say that we expect the people that hurt us to heal us. And my pastor often says that, like, you cannot expect the person that hurt you to heal you. And sometimes we think an apology from that person is going to heal us, an apology somewhere down, but it doesn't. And you cannot expect the person that hurt you to heal you.
No, it doesn't. You're grateful if the apology comes, but if it doesn't, I'm not going to wait on it.
Right.
I'm grateful for those who've tried to have efforts of conversation, but I can't wait on them to decide that they were wrong.
Right.
Right. So, because some people will never come to the revelation of their part in your story. And so, if I wait for them to come to the place where they recognize their part in the story, I would still be stuck. And so, I had to evolve. I had to evolve even when other people around me didn't evolve.
Yes.
And be okay with it. Writing the book, it took me 8 years because the book's been out now since I think 2018, I think. Writing the book took me 8 years. It took me 8 years to feel comfortable enough to say, okay, I got to tell all of this and be okay with whatever comes from it. It took 8 years to get to obedience. It really did. But writing it was freeing at another level. Because again, I didn't write it to accuse or to point fingers. I wasn't looking for people to take sides. I wrote it because God wanted to use the story for his glory, period. And if that was what he was requiring of me, if he could go to the cross, I could tell my story. It was to me a divine exchange. If you went to the cross for my life, I could tell my story and so people could look at me whatever way they wanted to, because people are going to have it. They already have their opinions anyway. So at least let me write my own story. Let me at least control the narrative, because as a child, I didn't have control over the narrative. Let me control the narrative. Let me tell my story. Because when I was telling my truth, of course, there were those who were like, you can't tell that, or you can't say that. It's nothing like going to court and you see your family on the other side, because the predator is a family member and your family doesn't want to deal with that truth. And you have to testify, and you have a lawyer, or you have a public attorney, you have the police, they all believe you, but the people who matter don't believe you. So it was damaging, but it was freeing at the same time. To understand that I had damage. I don't pretend like I didn't have damage. I don't pretend like I didn't have the molestation, the rejection, the abandonment, all of those things, the homelessness, the suicide attempts. But I also recognize that my brokenness was not my final blueprint, that God could still get something beautiful out of something broken.
My brokenness was not my final blueprint.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, to think or even know that some people would try to encourage you not to own your truth, or not to speak your truth, but you chose to realize that it was nasty, but it was necessary. It was necessary for you to face your truth. So I think if more people could walk in just that part right there, all my life I've always heard that the truth hurts, but the Bible tells me that the truth will make you free.
Absolutely.
So when we face the nasty that's in our lives, it's necessary that we face it.
It is. That's the thing, is that when we think about that freedom, are we willing to pay the cost of being free? Like you said, he whom the Son sets free is free indeed. A lot of people don't want to really be free. They have become so comfortable with the dysfunction, or they don't want to be different, or they don't want to be isolated. So that freedom is never free. I don't care how anybody puts it. Freedom is never free. Whether we talk about the freedom of our country that came at the cost of the lives of servicemen and their families. We talk about our spiritual freedom, which came at the cost of the life of our Savior. And then our own personal freedoms, it's going to come at a cost. And it's going to come at choices and decisions that we make every day. Every day I have to decide to be free, because there are days and moments and hours where my past, or even a current situation, wants to hold me hostage. It wants me to re-engage. It wants me to be a victim twice. And so every day I have to make a decision that, no, I'm free, and I'm going to stay free. I'm not going to re-engage. I'm not going to be anybody's victim twice. I thank God for those that stand in the gap and come into agreement. I thank God for my husband, Bishop James Watson, on the days where I don't have the strength to be free from a situation, and he steps into the fight. I thank God for the days where my best friend, Dr. Tomosa Dixon, shows up and becomes a part of the freedom story, because sometimes the key to unlock freedom is somebody else. It may not be the one that just like people cause you pain, people will help you to heal. And so I thank God for those who became the antithesis to what I had dealt with, that I learned that you could have a real friend, you could have a good husband, you could have a safe place, so it would, but it's still a choice, because some people would prefer to just continue to be pitiful because they profit off of being pitiful, whether it's they get attention, whether they don't have to show up and be accountable. Because for me, my reality was what I had dealt with was not my fault. It wasn't my fault. I had gotten to the place where I recognized that what had happened, molestation wasn't my fault, abuse wasn't my fault. Certain things just wasn't my fault. But my healing and my freedom was my responsibility. And so how I responded to it, whether I came out of it, was my responsibility. And I could continue to stay in the cycle, but I'm a curse breaker. And it's painful to be a curse breaker, because that means you come up against everything in your generation. I'm a generational curse breaker, which means everything that was running in the family ran in the family until it ran into me. And then I had to break through generations of things that people before me either could not or would not face, whatever it was. And God would make me responsible. People don't understand, why am I hyphenated? Garris Watson is not a dishonor to my husband. I love my husband. That's the answer to my prayers wrapped in flesh. But God had me keep Garris because the Garris legacy was lacking. There was no male heir to take up the mantle of the Garris. So God left it on me. So I had to do things for the sake of legacy that was important. I'll tell one of the greatest pieces. If anybody looks at my profile picture, you'll see me I'm putting a hood on my son. My son became a lawyer just a couple of weeks ago, May 18th at 5:00. He graduated from law school. What I passed down to my son wasn't my brokenness, but it was my 3 bars. The magnitude of that moment, that when you're a generational curse breaker, you get to set the new legacy. You get to reset your entire family bloodline. And that's what my story is. It's the resetting of my family's bloodline.
Wow. Dr. Key, I love when you said that it ran in your family until it ran into you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good God today. That is so powerful. And looking at your son, even your daughter as well, because she is accomplished on her own right as well.
Yeah.
I see what you are saying. And resetting your family's bloodline. Powerful. Powerful.
It with my daughter, my pud, and my kids, my husband, those around me all gonna have nicknames. We rarely use it there. Both of my kids, to do what they're doing. My son went to Boston by himself, no family. That took faith. My daughter is in Colorado as a African American female in an area and she's doing it on her own. For them to do that, I had to raise them to love me and still be willing to go. That wasn't the permissions of my family. There's leaving Virginia, leaving the area. Yeah, those are the things that they did, and they did that on their own, and then their own faith walk. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, you have to be this." I've never put spiritual titles on my children. I just wanted them to have an authentic relationship with God. And my greatest testimony of ministry is how they see me. I'm grateful for those who speak well of me. I'm grateful for every opportunity, including this, to share the platform, to share my story, to preach God's story, to preach God's message, his gospel. I'm grateful for everyone who's opened their pulpit or just gave me space. But my greatest ministry model is my children, because I had to live before them and they still love God, that they still want to have a relationship with God, that they saw God in me in the day-to-day walk, that what I was preaching and teaching, I was living, and that they have their own walk with God. If they choose to walk, I know that they have legacy and callings on their life, if they never grab a mic, but they live authentically to who they are, that's testimony for me. If they become who God ordained, that's testimony. If they're praying and they're believing, and they have all education, they still speak well of God, I've done my part. I've done my part. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they see you.
They don't see Dr. Key, they don't see Apostle, Pastor. No, they see me. They get to see me. Same thing with my husband. My husband, if he sees Proverbs 31, that's wonderful. But if he can still say, you know what, my wife got me. My wife holds me down. My wife is praying. That I need him to see beyond the pulpit and the pew. I don't want that to be his story or his testimony of me. I'm grateful that he stands up and we hold each other down when we're preaching. But I want to know that he's safe at home. Right. That he wants to come home, because a lot of people go to church together, but they don't want to go home together. Right. They don't want to sleep. They don't want to sleep in the same bed. They don't want to be in the same house. That my husband doesn't have to drive around the block for 2 and 3 hours avoiding coming home. My husband comes straight home. That's right. You know, that's a blessing. And I don't take it for granted, because I know the opposite story as well. That we can just be. That matters. I'm grateful for all the other things God has allowed me to do, and everything. When you were reading my bio, and I'm in the back in the green room, like, wow, that's a lot. You know, that's a lot. But my story, anything that I've done, it's all God. I can't take credit for that, because again, there is no blueprint. There's no template. There was nothing about my beginning that said this should be my end, which means that he had to be the author and the finisher, which means he was writing it all along. Even when I didn't understand what he was writing, I can't take credit for that. To go to school, to have multiple degrees. I remember showing up on campus with all my stuff in a trash bag, not knowing, in the middle of the night, not knowing what I was going to, because I was a first generation college student. So nobody knew that process. Trying to figure it out. Every step had to be a God step. I really am the personification of the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Even when I wasn't doing good, he was still ordering my steps. There is really no reason that you should be able to read about me that I have 5 degrees. It shouldn't be able to read doctor in front of my name, because nothing about my story makes sense. But at the same time, it's all God. I can never take credit. I'm not gifted. I'm anointed because God chose me. All of that. I should have been disqualified, but God used it to make me distinguished and different. And he did it on purpose. Yeah. Everything that man would have used to disqualify me, God used to qualify me. It just doesn't make sense.
It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. And I love it, because I don't think I want to make sense.
Right.
I don't want people to be able to decide. You know how people say, oh, you look like a preacher. Well, what does a preacher look like?
Right.
What does that mean? I don't want to look like, I want to live like.
Come on.
Right? I don't want to look like I want to live like, so that you have to be like, it's something about you. I want that to be my test. Somebody's like, no, I see God. I want to go in a room and the fragrance of God be left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's without a mic. I don't want it to be the mic that speaks for me.
And it's happening.
Absolutely.
It's happening. Yes.
Absolutely.
It is happening right now.
Yeah. As I listen to you, and when you say that, because I always 42:5, when it talks about when Job says, how he sees God. At the moment he had heard of him with the hearing of the ears, but now he sees God. And so when I look at your life, and from where you were to where you are, and to even where you're going, because the best has not even been told yet, but I see God.
Yes.
I see the hand of God. I see how he uses the foolish things to confound the wise. I see it. I see him using what man would disqualify to qualify. That's the kind of God we serve.
Yeah.
That's the kind of God we serve.
Yes. Yes.
And I
And
want
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, and I coming from the two of you, and I said it last time, I have to say it again. The little bit I know about the two of you, just a little bit, I know just a little bit of your testimony. So to hear it from you all, I don't see it as flattery. I don't see it as fake. I don't see it as fluff. And so to be a part of your testimony, when I know just a little bit of your testimony and to be a part of your story, that is, yeah, you're the type of people that I want to connect with and know, because I think about the authenticity of who you are and what it costs you to be so authentic and to love God and to stay, yeah.
Again, I say we're honored. And I say this, Dr. Key, it's a lot of times that people will look at your now and they think that this is, like I said before, this is just who you are, where you've been all of your life. They don't understand the price that has to be paid or that was paid. And
Absolutely.
so when I hear you tell your story, and people are, just talking, so just saying thank you for being so transparent. Thank you for sharing your story, because there's so many people suffering in silence.
Yes.
They are dealing with this. They're dealing with, being raised in the home that says what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trapped in that place where they're not able to speak because they care more about what others are going to think and how others may be shamed and embarrassed by what has happened. And so they end up trying to protect even the ones that hurt them,
Mm-hmm.
which is hard within itself. And so when I hear you, tell your story, and you're helping so many people.
Yes.
You're helping so many with your transparency, with just speaking truth. And I tell couples that I counsel all the time, transparency is what helps. Like, I got to be able to see. And so being transparent is key, and communicating is key.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And like for me, when we first met, you and Bishop, like from that point to this one, you guys have never changed. You
Yep.
have been the same. You
Yep.
know, like you could have done or acted in so many different ways, but both of you have always remained consistent on how not just how you treat us, but how you treat others. And we just know that you two are such a phenomenal couple,
yes.
as well as individuals.
And I say this, in the hardest moments of my life, I remember Dr. Dixon telling me about a conference that you were doing and me coming up there. And you probably don't even remember this, but I remember you calling me to the altar, speaking into my life and anointing me. And I so needed it. When I tell you I needed it, it was at a hard place. It had been a few years since the children had transitioned, but I needed someone who was not familiar with me and my story and all of that. I just needed God. And you were that person that he used to help me in that hard moment.
Yes.
I'm just grateful. And this has been, actually, it's been multiple times that we've come, because I remember being at a hotel one time too.
In Richmond.
Not that one. Well, that one was another one, but it wasn't that. So it's been about 3 different times. It was like closer to the beginning. It was a hotel. And I remember Dr. Dixon and Bishop McKnight and all of them were there at a conference, Apostle John. I just remember being there in the presence with you all. And then, so it's been several occasions, but I'm just for what you poured into me. I'm so grateful. And so if you have that impact here, I am so grateful that people are being able to hear you and to see you from this end, you know.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning. So
Yep. So we just want to thank you and Bishop for your contribution to the kingdom and what you guys have presented to us.
absolutely.
So Dr. Key, your book Damaged but Designed has
Destined.
redirected, I'm sorry, Damaged but Destined
Mhm.
has redirected so many people towards the journey of healing. How do you move readers from simply recognizing their trauma to experiencing genuine breakthrough?
That's a good question. I actually like Damage but Design too. I may have to make that the sequel. Because it is, and it is by design. I
Yes.
think that the first thing I try to be for people is a safe place to be honest. And that they understand that truth is that key. Um and the motivate, and then too, when we talk about truth, we gotta talk about motivation. Like, what are you trying to get out of it? It's not our being hurt is not permission to cause hurt. And so people have to understand the motivation. Like, when I wrote the story, it wasn't to create hurt. It wasn't, I didn't want anybody going to look for anybody. I didn't want anybody to be angry or change their relationships. I actually held my books from my kids because I didn't at the time I didn't want it to influence their relationship with anyone. My truth wasn't being told for selfish reasons. So we have to, one, make sure we understand our motive behind it. And then we got to understand the mission. We have motives, we have missions, and we have ministry. So understand the motive behind it. And then what is the mission? What do you want to do different? What do you want to get out of it? And then that ministry, what's the ministry assignment? And every ministry assignment doesn't have a mic. Sometimes it's just that you're supposed to be free so that others can be free. You can be free so that you don't pass on the generational trauma or the generational dysfunction. People have to understand their why. And are you okay? Because some people are okay with being dysfunctional. I've never have been. I've clearly all of my life have questioned. God just put this thing in me, this questioning systems and situations that just didn't make sense. I used to ask questions that were far beyond my age, because if something didn't make sense, I wanted to understand it. And I want to give people permission to recognize you have these issues, but your issues are don't have the final say. That you have these labels, but the labels don't have permission to limit you. And I think that's the biggest part of my effort, is to tell people, despite the labels are not the limits. The labels can become a launching pad to your next. Okay, you're labeled this, but what's the opposite of that? What do you want to get out of that? What do you see? Exposure equals expectation. So it's like, when you're exposed to something else, what increase your expectation? What is available to you? What do you want to do different? And I want to be that conduit of hope. If I can do anything out of all of that, is to be a conduit of hope, that people can see my life, come in on chapter 52, because I'm 52 years old. I want them to come in on chapter 52, but understand that chapters 1 through 51 have pieces that are building another story, that you can actually rewrite a story, that you can have an epilogue, that you can have a sequel. So even if you have a whole history of this, that there, until you close your eyes, you have the potential to rewrite your narrative. But it has to be your narrative. You have to tell your truth. And you're not trying to attack anybody with it. Those who feel attacked, there were those who questioned their role in the story. My thing is, if you hadn't have done it, you wouldn't have been in the book, plain and simple. So you don't have to apologize for your evolution. Make the changes, make the growth, be different, and be ready for better. That's the difficulty about trauma. Trauma tries to convince you that this is it. I want people to see that it can get better. And I'm not saying you won't have more trouble. If you knew what I was going through right now, you would understand. But it's the glory to glory. I want people to see the evolution of from glory to glory. I want to be able to be a living epistle. That's it. I want to be a living epistle, that people can read my life, or hear my story, and see a modern day Deborah, or a modern day Hagar, or a modern day Hannah. I want people to see the modern day version, so that they don't have to say, oh, it's only in the Bible. I want them to know that God is still doing it, that the greater works are still in effect. So I want to be a living epistle.
Wow.
That's so good to me. It's the truth. And that is solely why we even do this, because we want people to know God is still doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
I don't
still
want them to have to
healing,
keep
setting
quoting.
free.
I want to be keep quoting Sarah or David. Like here you go.
Right.
Yeah, he's
Right.
still doing it. Yeah, he's
Yes.
still doing it. He's still doing it. He's still saving. He's still delivering. He's still healing. You know, a lot of people want to say, God, use me. But that's not really what they want.
It's not.
That's not what they want.
Right.
That's when they say use me, they just want God to put them on a platform and make them look pretty.
Right.
Mm-mm.
But that's not it.
That's not really use. If God's greatest use of Christ was the cross.
Yes.
That's his. While we can read stories, we can read the fish and loaves, we can read the bodies that we hear, we can read blind Bartimaeus, all these, I mean, great and fun, but his greatest assignment was the cross.
My Lord.
Yes.
It's the truth.
So
the bloody
if
cross.
that was our Savior's greatest assignment, and we keep saying we want to be like him, our greatest assignment is going to be the crosses that we bear.
Good God.
Wow.
It's gonna be our, which he tells us that we're gonna have to take it up daily anyway. Our greatest assignments is our cross. And I mean, and you know, we've had mics, we've had, but the greatest assignment is the cross. Even my greatest revelation of Christ comes from the crosses that I bear and the work that he's done, the crises that he's delivered me from, the time he's kept my mind. You know, I'm grateful for having a good credit score. Because I know, you know, those things are things that technically we can do for ourselves. That if we make right choices and good decisions and yada, yada, yada. But when God saves your mind, when he shows you what it means to be a lifter of a bowed down head, when he keeps you, when you don't want to be kept, when, you know, that's why I say when he takes you from homeless to higher education, from the hood to wearing a hood, those are God moments. Those are God moments. And then when he turns around and he says, the same comfort I gave you, now use it to comfort somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
The continuation, that's what he wants. It's the continuation. I can't be so anointed that I'm not approachable. I need to be able to talk to anybody.
Yes.
Anoint me to help, right? Anoint me to be touched. I don't need to be anointed. I can carry my own Bible, my own water. Anoint me to see somebody's pain across a room that thinks that God has forgotten them.
Yes.
That's the type of vision I want. Give me prophecy that speaks to somebody's life that is about to take their life. Housing, cars, and lands, that let me see somebody even in the street or in the grocery store who, you know, those are the things that's what matters to me. So even being the consistency that you all have spoke well of it, I'm honored of my husband and I. It came at a cost because we had to be obedient. The measure of success that others have, it cost us, you know, to have services, and God said, don't go live, because he wants to create a safe place where people can come and be healed, delivered, and set free and never have to worry about it becoming a public abuse. And so people don't get to see the ministry, so they don't think that you matter because they don't see your ministry because you're doing it in a quiet place because God said so.
Yep.
And then you lose people because they want to be where they are seen versus where they serve.
My.
Wow.
But we're willing to pay that cost and lose whoever we have to lose to save as many as we can so that they can have a safe place, you know?
Yes.
Wow.
I can't afford to be arrogant. I can't afford to be, and I don't do fake, y'all. I'm not anointed for fake. I'm just me.
Yes.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Jesus.
And Dr. Key, I can so identify when you say, like somebody say, God, I want you to use me. I can remember years ago, we were at a service at I Believe God, and the praise team was singing a song, Bishop Paulus Morton, Lord, whatever you're doing in this season, don't do it without me. And as the praise team was singing, I sat in my seat and I sang that song to God from the bottom of my heart. But little did I know, not many days hence, what we would have to endure.
Right.
And at that moment, in the middle of us enduring that, and I got a moment of transparency. If I could say, God, if I could reverse that, I really don't want to be a part of what you're doing.
What you're doing, right?
At that
happens
cost,
when glory comes wrapped in grief, right?
Yes.
God, I want your glory, but I didn't know the glory would be wrapped in grief.
Come on!
When I sang that song, I remember from the bottom of my heart, Lord, whatever you're doing in this season, please, I said, please don't do it without me. And it got to a point in that time that if I could have reversed that,
you would be like, I was just playing, Lord. I was just playing.
I didn't know what I was. Yeah.
Dr. Key, I stopped saying use me for your glory.
Because people have this misconception that glory is just this beautiful. God's glory often comes wrapped in grief, or his purpose comes wrapped in pain, because if he really wants to use you and give you his glory, that means he has to remove everything that's not pure. And in order to do that, he has to crush. And so to really be called, you got to be crushed in ways you don't want to, because that oil, the very olive oil that we want to slap on everybody's head, had to be crushed to be oil for us.
Yes.
And some people say it's not. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Why would he give people who don't understand the sacrifice the access to that level of glory? Who he makes us understand that it's not us.
Right.
It's not us. It's the weight of his glory that holds us through grief. And then we in turn help others go through that. But that's the glory. That glory comes. People think glory is easy. When God sends his glory, he sends both his blessings and his judgment. And so if you don't want to be on the side of judgment, that means you got to be clean hands and a pure heart. That's the only way we have full access. A lot of people, they've been seeing the gifts of God, but they really have not seen the glory of God.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. They've seen the gifts, but they haven't seen the glory.
Wow. And we often hear Pastor Jackson say, when he talk about when you're eating breakfast, if you have bacon and eggs, he said that the chicken was involved because he produced the eggs, but the pig was committed.
That's right. Because he gave up.
The pig was crucified so we can have bacon. And I love a piece of bacon, but something had to die.
Yes.
You know, I often think about the scripture where it talks about that no man can see God's face, right?
Right.
When we're willing to be subjected to the death of certain things is when we get the greater glimpse of who God is. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Is it worth it? Some days we wonder. If I was telling the truth, some days I wonder, is it worth it? But he has a way of making it worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he don't always come on the timeline that we want. God knows he don't. But I if I can help someone, and there's that thing that is the truth. It's like, if I want my life to matter, and that's one of the things that's in our bio, but it's a statement. I've never sought to be mega, but I've always sought to matter. And I want to matter in the lives that I have the privilege of coming into contact with. I want to know, when we think about spiritually, we have an impact on people's lives. We leave an impression on every life we go that we touch. I want to try to leave the impression of God on every life I touch in some capacity. And sometimes that's an easy thing. And sometimes it's really just being truthful with people about where they are. Because again, as a deliverance preacher, people don't always want to see you come. They don't want to see you show up, because God gives you a glimpse into the parts of them outside the prophecy. Is like, I can't prophesy you out of process, but I can tell you what you need to do to get through the process. A lot of people want to get past process, and that's that. Right. I can't do it.
Wow.
Can't do it.
Wow. Dr. Key, thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope I helped somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. As a matter, it's funny you should say that, because somebody just put on the text on the comment section, you are definitely helping. So yes, absolutely. Um, thank you so much for joining us on tonight. I want you to tell, so all of this that you heard on tonight is in her book. So please, 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 my sister normally puts the ways
She
to
did.
give.
Where she
Did she put it up here?
she put the book up, the link to the book.
So I need to find that link. Yes. So please, if you have not, Dr. Key not only has Damaged but Destined, but she has several books. She has a journal to that as well. And so we want you to go and get the book. Dr. Key, tell us how we can purchase the book.
Sure. They can go to my website, which is drkey.org. They can be purchased from there. They can, yes, you're on page 3, Dr. Tomos. Page 3 of that book. You can go to Damaged but Destined and get it from there. If they want to get it, I have some copies on hand. So if they want to get a signed copy, they can send me a message and they can go through the they can send me a message and I can take care of it through Cash App that way if they want to as well. Because I do, and because we're going to be shipping out a few books this weekend. If they want me to sign it, I can sign, because the ones that come through that, of course, get shipped out. So if you want me to sign it, I can sign it. But everything is on drkey.org, which is my website, www.drkey.org. Yeah. And then everything on my social media is I am Dr. Key. So if they want to just inbox me,
please, if you're not following her on social media, go to I am Dr. Key.
Yes.
And please follow her. Now, let me say this as we're ending with Dr. Key. Dr. Key is coming back again. Her and Bishop Watson, who we love, who was up here just a few weeks ago. And Dr. Key, look at that. Somebody say you have helped them more than you will ever know.
Isn't that a blessing? You. God bless you.
Isn't that a blessing?
That means
but we want you to please, please, please join us on June the 28th. We have Pastor Janice Ward, Love and Marriage, is coupling with Healthy Mind, Healthy Me, and Chanel Scott. We are doing, Chanel has Comministry, and we're having a relationship summit. And so we are super excited about it. Super excited to have you and your husband to join us. And I'm going to show the flyer really quick. Let me see if I can put it up to show you all the flyer. There it is. Here it is. Let me see. I might have to remove us. And so, guys, I'm going to try to remove us. This is the flyer. And so when I come off the stage, the audio is removed. But this is the flyer of the Relationship Summit. Please, please, please go ahead and register. It is only $20 per ticket. You don't want to miss it. It is June the 28th, and it is going to be at the Atrium, which is the old Henderson Middle School around the back where the STEM building is. It is going to be in that part across from the gym. Guys, you don't want to miss it. We have some wonderful couples, married couples, single, divorced, all of the things, widowed. We have a lot of different people that are going to be up there, and you don't want to miss it. It is June the 28th. And as I stated before, Dr. Key will be there with us as well. So we are super, super excited to have you and your husband to join us on that platform as well. Yep. It is going to be something. They have got some very special things set up for that day. Janice has been working super hard to make sure everything is ready. And this is the link. So Tasha has put the link up here to register for the Relationship Summit. So go ahead, get your tickets. It is going to be amazing. Go ahead and get your tickets married, now. Everybody. Single, married, widowed, all the things, divorced, all the things. Yes, yes, yes. J.L. Presley says, "Here we come."
Thank you, Deke. On the road. Calendar crew.
Yes, it is going to be amazing. So you do not want to miss it.
Yep.
So please, guys, go ahead and get your tickets. Only $20.
And if you can't make it, send somebody else.
Yes, yes. If you know anyone, I can't say a married couple. It's just anyone. It's open to all. So please go ahead. We have a live guest. Demarius Terry is going to be singing on that night as well. And Chanel has such a phenomenal platform. You don't want to miss it. So go ahead and get your tickets now.
Yep.
We are super excited about it. Guys, thank you. Dr. Key, we're going to close out with you. Can you
before we close it, you may have already done this. In case there's someone on here that would like to sow into what you and Bishop is doing,
absolutely,
what are ways that people can sow into you guys?
They can sow into me directly, which is $ I am Dr. Key. And then our ministry is $WODWM. So again, if they want to sow directly, and I'm honored, it is I am Dr. Key. That is authentic. And they may see Dr. Key Enterprises come up. That's me as well. That's my actual social enterprise that covers a lot of different things. But I am Dr. Key. And then our actual church's Words of Deliverance, which is WODWM. And we would be honored. We are integral. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
You.
Please.
We would be honored. And again, if they want to use that method to do the books, that's fine too, because it's easier than the PayPal sometimes.
Ivy says she has someone that she wants to send. Ivy and her Anthony better be there.
That's my Ivy. Ivy supposed to be reading for me.
Ivy
owed me a read. She owed me a read and a ride. Ivy, don't forget my read and my ride.
It's because she got the new ride too. So yes,
yeah. I said she owed me a read and a ride and a new ride. That's my Ivy.
Now, guys, I have to announce this. The Watsons will be at Safe Place Ministries the entire month of July. They will be there ministering in Warrenton the entire month of July. So please, what time does service start?
11:30. Dr. Tomosa is trusting us the whole month to come in. So we'll be there the first Sunday, and then the third weekend, that Saturday will be Men to Protect Your House, Bishop J. He's going to do that on Saturday and Sunday. So we'll be there the first Sunday, third Friday, and third Sunday. So we will be there. Yeah. I owe you a jacket, Ivy. So go and get my read and my ride. So we'll be there. We'll be at Safe Place in North Carolina that whole month of July. So we're honored to be able to minister at Safe Place. Dr. Tomosa is my best friend of 14 years. And we're coming in to give her a break for July. She gonna pay us back though. We're gonna pay us back. So we will be in North Carolina. It's an honor when someone trusts you with their people to come in, because beyond relationship, beyond friendship, there's still spiritual responsibility over those that God has given to her. But we will be coming in ministering, and we'll be doing Bible study. She allowed us to do the Real Relevant and Raw we had a couple sessions with her people. So we had a chance to kind of learn some things, ask some questions, see what they see. So we're honored. God is God. And he's allowing us to use our collective story, because we both have our individual stories, but he's letting us use our collective story. And we're honored. I don't take any of it for granted at all.
Absolutely.
And that's my eldest. That's my eldest sister. She dropping in there. Thank you, Elder Sissy. She's Elder Lisa Watson, my sister, my blingologist. So when you see extra bling, that's my blingologist, because I got to have bling in my life.
I love it. I love every bit
of it. My blingologist and our driver. She's been driving us for the last year. Bless her heart. She's been driving us so that we can study and pray on our way. So that's been our blingologist driver, our Elder Sissy, Lisa Watson. So
I love it.
But thank y'all to everyone. We don't take it for granted, especially when people have church hurt and legitimate church hurt, because there have been people who've been hurt and disappointed and mishandled. And when people trust you and allow you to speak into their life, I don't take that for granted.
Absolutely.
At all. So, and thank you again to you and the Pastor June. I want to try to come. I see you preaching. I'm like, wait a minute. I think we got a conflict. I want to come see you preach. We're trying to figure this thing out. We're trying to be in the house and holler for you.
I'm speechless.
I saw it. I'm like, wait, how can we make this happen?
I'm so excited. I've already, because we have church at our church that Sunday. And so I told my son, I said, listen, I need you to get here, drive your daddy, and be prepared just in case you may have to introduce your daddy. I don't know if I'll make it in time. So,
but I'm on the way
for all of that. And Mommy, you better hurry up. But I am excited to hear what the Lord has to say.
Bishop brother. Hey, Bishop brother. I see you, Bishop Brandon.
Yeah, I honor the word of the Lord that comes out of his mouth. I do.
So we trying to figure out how we can sneak in. So don't be surprised. Bishop J, I got the flyer. I captured it when I saw it.
I love it.
I did.
I love it. So, Dr. Key, again, thank you so much. We love you so much and appreciate you and Bishop and all that you do. And we cannot wait for June the 28th. Again, June the 28th. Mark your calendars. I think it's at 6. Maybe doors open at 5. I'm not sure. But please, you don't want to miss it. I'm telling you. Tell me again, real, raw, and relevant.
Real, relevant, raw.
Real, relevant, and raw.
You got it. The 3 R's. You got it. Yeah. Real, relevant, and raw.
Again, thank you so much. We love you and appreciate you guys.
Tell
go
Bishop
get the
we
book.
missed him tonight.
Yes,
I will. I know he got off work so he can listen in. I appreciate him. I love you, Bishop.
He is here too. He is here. Again, thank you guys. Thank you all for watching with us tonight. Join us next week as we have First Lady Candy World will be with us on next week.
Pastor World's going to be with us for the men's conference.
Really? Exciting. So we got to get there. So yes. So she will be sharing her testimony on next week. We are super excited to have her as well. So you don't want to miss next week, 6 o'clock, same place, same time. All right. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.